Three, two, one. And we're live. Dad.
Oh, hi, Spencer.
Hi. What's today? Today is...
So is it that or this?
What's that?
Okay.
You don't have to... It'll pick you up.
All right.
So this is something we've been trying to do for a while, or I've been trying to do for a while. And I just thought it was a cool idea. The only reason why I want to do it is because, obviously, just to talk to you, but also, you know, there's things that I wish I talked to Grandma and Grandpa about that I'm not able to do anymore. So
Me too.
yeah. So, anyways, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just basically
Neither do I.
yeah. So I just have a bunch of questions, and we're just gonna start. And we just did Mom, and it started out a little rocky, but then you just start hanging out and talking about random stuff.
Well, I'm probably not going to start crying within the first 3 minutes.
Well, let's try. What's your full name? Let's see if you start crying.
It's Mark Joseph Hafey.
And where'd that middle name come from, Joseph?
Oh, probably the Catholic Church. It's a Irish Catholic name, pretty much.
So were Grandma and Grandpa Catholic?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We used to go to church when we were children. They didn't necessarily rebel against the church, but they stopped going to church as a priority when I was pretty young. Yeah, I was an altar boy.
Really? Wait, did you go to Catholic
For
school?
about a week. Or a year, maybe.
Did you go to Catholic school?
No, I went to catechism.
Us.
My mother was a catechism teacher. So that was on
What?
Saturdays. I'd have to go to catechism in the morning, and then Sundays I had to go to church.
Holy moly. I didn't know that.
St. Priscilla's Church in Livonia.
St. Priscilla's.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. And so, obviously, Grandma and Grandpa were both raised Catholic as well. Or did Grandpa do it because of Grandma?
I'm not sure. I loved my parents. I very much admired them very much, but I'm not the best Hafey sibling to discuss their history.
Yeah. Maybe Jim?
I was the youngest until Mary was adopted, and so I was following in the footsteps of Jim, Jane, and Tom, somewhat, So they probably know the better history of Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of thought that. Okay, so you said your full name. Today is Thanksgiving.
I almost had a tear run down my face.
Good. That means good interviewer.
It is Thanksgiving. And you know what I tend to think about a lot on Thanksgiving? Now I'm offering it up somewhat. But certainly the Detroit Lions playing every Thanksgiving. And Alice's Restaurant.
What is Alice's Restaurant?
That's an album by, Arlo Guthrie that came out in about 1966 or 67, 68, something like that. And for some reason it became a great tradition. If we put on any FM radio station, there's a good chance you hear Alice's Restaurant.
So that's what makes you think of Thanksgiving?
Well, it's very traditional, yeah. Usually Thanksgiving morning I wake up and think, gotta hear Alice's Restaurant today.
Cool. Have you heard it today?
No.
Well, we're going to put it on later.
Okay.
So today is 2019, Thanksgiving. Your birth date. And where were you born?
4/12/58. I'm used to saying that with all my medical issues. Every time you talk to them, they ask you your birth date. So it was April 12th, 1958, in Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan is where you... Do you remember the name of the hospital?
St. Mary's, maybe? That's a guess. but I'm usually pretty good when I guess. You know that.
Yeah. So, Detroit, where you were born in Detroit? Well, you were born in Detroit, but did you grow up in Detroit?
No.
Outside of Detroit.
When I was born, my family lived in Oak Park, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. And I think I was 1 or 2 when we moved to Livonia.
Which is how far away from Detroit, or how far away from that area?
It's probably only 10 to 15 miles maximum.
Oh, okay.
From downtown Detroit. Just a suburb of Detroit.
Do you remember why you guys moved to that
bigger house?
Bigger house.
When they had me, it was 4 kids already.
So you're the reason why they moved out of...
Yes. Well, somewhat, yeah. When I was young, probably 4 or 5, 6, they still owned the Oak Park house. And we used to go back to it and do some work on it. I suppose they were renting it back then. And I liked it. It was older. The neighborhood we moved into in Livonia was brand new. And it was like a Steven Spielberg movie.
The new one?
Yeah.
Like E.T. kind of?
Well, it's just the neighborhood, you know. When you look at the neighborhood, I don't even know if it's Steven Spielberg, Edward Scissorhands, that movie.
Oh,
you
yeah,
go
yeah,
up to the haunted mansion where Edward lived, and you look over that
suburb.
It was, you know, it's all perfectly painted lime green, and, you know, but that's not how our neighborhood was. But everybody... It was a new neighborhood, and everybody who moved in there pretty much was raising a new family, just like us. And so there were kids of similar age, brothers and sisters. All my friends were like my brothers and sisters, you know. It was very, very close-knit.
So just, you were hanging out with your brother's friends and sister's friends, and they were hanging out with your friends kind of thing? Just playing baseball or whatever? Or...
Yeah, no, it was really a very great neighborhood. Halloween, for instance, was like spectacular in this neighborhood.
Cool.
The sidewalks were jammed.
And Halloween, so that's the beginning of winters. Do you remember it being snowing every Halloween, or I mean?
Not every Halloween. One year, it didn't snow at all until Christmas, and it snowed like Christmas Eve. It was the first snow of the year, and it's like a white Christmas arrived. Speaking of Halloween and talking about my mom and dad somewhat, my dad was a real character, and so you're bringing back some memories, which is good. I suppose that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
But one Halloween, we had almost everybody had like 2 steps up to a landing at your front door, and we had shrubs to the right of it, and my dad dressed up as a witch with a really tall hat and put this long nose. He built this putty nose.
Oh, really?
And he hid behind the shrubs, and the kids would come up and he'd scare them, you know. He'd just say, "Hello, my pretty," or something like that. It was super funny.
Oh, that is really good. That does seem like Grandpa. And what streets was that? That was all the avenues, or right?
18345 Fremont was our address, on the corner of Hillcrest. And there were 3 homes in a street, 3 homes in a street, 3 homes in a street, and then there were like 20 homes. You know, the streets would go side by side. So 3 homes down, we were at Hillcrest. 3 homes down was Transcrest, and friends across the street, Becky, Ricky Hall, was a total character, redhead. But we were on that corner, 3 homes down, across the street right there at Transcrest, Shimo's house. Right next to them was the Deshanes. And then down the street was the Solax, and just every few doors there were friends.
That sounds awesome.
It was really a great neighborhood to be a child in, for sure.
Yeah. And when you left, was it sad for all of them to see the Hayfies leave?
Oh, of course. We had the swimming pool, and we were the most popular people in the neighborhood because my parents would allow open swimming. And you could come swimming in our pool on given days with a note from your parents.
That's
so
pretty
we were
good.
very popular.
That must have been a blast. So, who was your best friend at that time? Do you remember? Or were you all just...
At what time?
Well, let's say, what age did you leave?
I'd say we were equally best friends. Everybody was my best friend. The Deshanes, the Shimoleskis, all the guys and gals in the neighborhood, we were friends, and their brothers and sisters were our friends also. But the Deshanes we were very close with, very, very close. Tom Deshane and Kathy Deshane, his little sister, she was younger than me. Tom was a little older than me. And Julie was younger than Katie. But like for a while, Katie was my best friend. I used to come home from Coolidge Elementary School. I'd walk home. We all walked to school.
Even in the snow?
Oh yeah, I skated to school a few times.
It's just skating right on the street?
Uh-huh.
Holy moly.
But kind of lost track of what I was saying, but
Well, the Deshanes used to walk... You guys would walk to school and walk home together.
pretty much.
Well, that's what you
It
were
wasn't-
going down that path.
Oh, so when I'd get home from school, there was a certain time in my life, it was probably I was 6, 7 years old. And TVs were different then. There was basically, I think there was 3 stations being CBS, NBC, ABC, even back then. And then there was a switch on your TV where you could go to, I was just thinking of it, UFS or UHS. It was a different signal or something. And that one you turned to dial like a radio. And you go to find TV stations. And there was only a couple you could get. One of them you could get pretty good. So I know in my youth I was I'd look forward to getting home from school, and Katie and Julie, but probably most all of us, we'd go to the UHS channel, and you'd get Three Stooges, Spanky and Our Gang, and a couple of other classic shows from way back then, which I may think of more as we're talking. But I used to love watching them. You know, really great humor.
Mm-hmm.
Really gut-wrenching or gut-clenching. You know, you'd laugh hard.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Knee slapping.
Yeah, knee slapping.
And so, would you watch the live sports events like Muhammad Ali, or I wanted to get to like
he was Cassius Clay back then.
Yeah, I just watched a documentary on him. What an amazing, what an interesting character back then.
Oh yeah.
For what was going on.
Yeah, he definitely was entertaining. He challenged the norm, but so there was a time. So Muhammad Ali, it was Cassius Clay beat Sonny Liston, who was the heavyweight champion of the world at the time, and he was very popular. And Cassius Clay wasn't. He was going to get run over by this brute of a man, and it didn't happen. Ali pretty much danced and floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee, and he knocked him out, and it was a big shocker.
And do you remember watching this with the family?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. Later on, it was Joe Frazier came in. A lot of people didn't like Ali. He was very brash and cocky.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people wanted Joe Frazier to beat him, Sonny Liston to beat him. So I think the Sonny Liston fight, that's when he won the title first. He was, I think it was either that or the Joe Frazier fight, where it was like the first pay-per-view, but you didn't pay for the TV. You had to go to the movie theater to see it. And that, I think, was probably the first one ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a huge deal back then.
What about as you were growing up, the Lions? As we're watching the Lions and Bears on Thanksgiving, and the Red Wings and the Tigers. I mean, did you ever remember going? Do you remember going to any of the games?
Oh, absolutely. It's classic.
Really?
Yeah. It was mostly, for me, it was all of the above, but mostly it was the Tigers. The Tigers had a really fantastic team, a classic team, if you look back on it. And they won the 1967 World Series. And they were just chock full of stars, and I just loved all the Tigers.
Cool.
Yeah. And so, with the limited amount of stations, surprisingly, I don't remember, a lot of the games were televised, and there's only 3 channels.
Yeah.
And one's dominated by the Tiger game.
Oh, wow.
And so then, there was news or...
Wait, so every game, I mean, they must have had the same
I'm
amount
not
of...
sure if every game played, but it could be. I seem to remember I could sit down and watch whenever they played. But certainly when they were in the World Series, every game played.
So 67, what age were you at 67?
I was 9.
So that must have been really exciting.
That was really exciting, yeah.
And so your
I loved
dad...
the whole team.
Do you remember any specific games that you went to, or? And that wasn't out. We went to the stadium. What was the stadium called?
Tiger Stadium.
Tiger Stadium. Is that still there? Or are they?
No.
Okay. But did you ever remember?
You guys saw it.
Yeah.
In the next year, they knocked it down.
Yeah, we walked on the field. That was cool.
That's really great.
That was an outdoor stadium.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a very classic stadium.
And what about the Red Wings? I mean, they were dominating at that time
they were
too, right?
Extremely great, yeah. And they played at an arena that was very unique in its own right. It was called Olympia Stadium. And
did you ever get a chance to go see them?
oh yeah. No,
Oh, really?
I haven't been to a hockey game since a Red Wing game when I was a
Whoa,
kid.
you went as a kid?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
who did you go with?
Oh, my dad and my brothers, I suppose, maybe my cousins. The Arnolds, we were very close with the Arnolds. Crazy family. But yeah, I really loved hockey. I think hockey's the best sport live. And I was a huge fan. They were a really great team. And childhood memories. Alex Del Vecchio, Frank Mahavlich, and Gordie Howe. They were the stars.
Wow, you remember those? Those are interesting names.
Yeah, and
Canadian
I
or
remember what they
something,
looked like.
or French Canadian.
Yeah, well, most of them are. But Gordie Howe is a living legend. He's. I think Wayne Gretzky may have passed him for most goals ever scored, but he's probably second.
And did you play as a kid?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Great memories.
Out in the frozen ponds or in a arena?
just another excellent memory for me is the Deshanes had, we had the pool, the Damons had a pool. Shimoleski had a patio in their yard. It was extended patio, and we'd hang there and party like crazy for kids. Had a jukebox in his patio, but the Deshanes had a big backyard. There's nothing back there. There was a garage on the side. So when it would snow at the beginning of the season, we'd shovel the snow up on the side of, and make
Border?
a border, and you water the snowbank so it would freeze. And when that froze, then we'd flood it and
Whoa.
make an ice rink in their backyard. And we'd play hockey.
That's...
And it was brutal.
So you had a pair of skates and...
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that seems like a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I had the shin guards. We may have had shoulder pads, too. It's a dangerous game.
I can imagine.
Hockey pucks are hard, especially when
So
they're
is
sliding on frozen ice.
Yeah, so is ice.
Yeah.
Do you remember wearing helmets? That would be probably the most...
I don't think we did.
That's really cool. What about, you were playing all the sports. Did you play basketball? Obviously as a kid.
Yeah, I played basketball. And
Did you ever play for a team or anything?
Yeah,
or was it
yeah,
just basically buddies?
high school or junior high. I wasn't there in high school. I played football one season. Had some issues. And I played basketball. And in the 7th grade, I was 6'1", and I was the starting center. In the 8th grade, I was the power forward. I was still 6'1". I'm still 6'1". I stopped growing in
We'll
the
see about that, but yeah.
7th grade. And then when I was in elementary school, I was playing baseball, and I was on the Orioles. And I was a pitcher. Every other game I'd pitch. You can't pitch every game, And then I was shortstop every other game.
Do you remember being a good player?
Yeah.
A good pitcher?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
who...
No, I was real good.
Was Grandpa into sports or Grandma?
No.
Or did they just...
No.
Why were you into sports?
I don't know.
Friends?
Jim, Tom, Jane, no.
So they weren't into sports? None
No.
of your siblings?
Uh-uh.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
I don't know, just my competitive nature, or maybe, and none of them really had a great appreciation of the sports teams, the Tigers, the Lions,
Neither
Red Wings.
Grandma and Grandpa didn't?
Well, Grandpa took me to most all the games I went to as a child, so he had some appreciation of it, but I was rooting as much as all of them put together when the Tigers won the World Series,
So if they didn't influence you in sports so much, what did your siblings influence you in? Do you remember music or art or school?
Well, Jim was the schooling. Jane took me under her wing, like a nanny or something like that. She took care of me a lot when I was a young kid.
From what ages?
Oh, I don't know.
Like even moving to San Francisco? Or before that?
Maybe somewhat. Jane and Tom and I moved to San Francisco first.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure she was looking over my shoulder while Tom was leading me down a troublesome path. Jane influenced me in art, not coincidentally, even back then.
Yeah. So music, art.
Yeah. And then Tom basically was a troublemaker. He and I were very close, but we fought a fair amount too.
So
I was competing with him.
do you think that's where you got your competitive nature, just trying to compete with Tom?
Probably to an extent, yeah.
I can kind of feel the same thing with Mark.
Oh, Bill Dygert. Whenever you see him, he'll tell you Mark was a feisty little kid with a bad temper, and he and Tom were always going at it tooth and nail. So him being older than me, he probably remembers that even better than me. But Tom and I had a go at it for sure, which means we were close.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we were close. And he was 3 years older, got a car.
Just like me and Mark, or Mark and I.
Yeah.
Wow. So far, so good, Dad. So moving to California, what age were you at that, or when you moved to California?
12, I believe.
And so,
It was 1971.
12 years old. And so, what was the reason why you guys moved to California? I mean, if everything was
Well, I
going
like to
so
think-
far, everything you're telling me, everything was going great in Michigan.
Yeah, well, it was my parents' desire to expand on all of our lives, go to California, it was magical, mystical. So I don't know how much of an influence it was, but one time we went to Idaho for vacation, in Moscow, Idaho, with my aunt and uncle and cousins, which we did every year or two, and it was really nice. And for some reason, everybody else left and left me in Idaho for like an extra week.
By yourself?
Yeah, with my cousins.
Uh-huh. Did you want to stay? Is that...
Yeah. No, I loved it there. Climbing trees with my cousin Babs.
Babs?
Uh-huh.
Don't think I've ever heard that name.
That's short for Barbara.
Oh, okay.
My Aunt Barbara.
Yeah,
and
okay,
her daughter Babs. But yeah, riding horses and climbing trees, that type of thing.
And that's where Grandma was from.
Yeah. So, so I stayed like an extra week or so, and then I flew back. They drove me to Spokane, where the airport was, and I flew back home, and it did a detour and flew into San Francisco. And I still remember that flight, and circling the Bay Area, and I was looking out the plane window and seeing how beautiful San Francisco Bay was in downtown San Francisco. And so I told them that when I got back home, how beautiful San Francisco was. I thought at the time that we moved that I had influenced them to check out San Francisco and the beauty of it and the ocean and the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever. But I don't know that was really true. But it was about 2 years later, I'm guessing, that we moved to California.
Was it a long process of them saying, hey, we're going to leave in a year? Or is it like this summer we're moving to San Francisco?
I don't recall.
Do you remember being scared, excited,
Oh, yeah.
nervous, mad?
Yeah, I was mad. It wasn't moving to San Francisco. I was so close to all my friends, and I had a girlfriend,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and didn't want to leave her. But I was 12 years old.
Yeah. That's a huge
That was
shift in life.
It was a huge shift in life.
So,
I got here and knew no one, And we moved to San Francisco. We lived up on Twin Peaks after they got here. And I was going to some rugged schools in the city. And I basically cut class most of the time.
I'm sorry, what age were you at?
12.
So you were in 7th grade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to junior high. When I got here, I didn't go to elementary school.
So,
But I was in junior high in Michigan at Bryant. And I think I went, when we moved, I don't remember what month it was.
summertime?
I think it was in spring, and so I was still going to junior high. and then my first full year in California, I started high school, and that was rough too. James Lick, I think, was the junior high I went to, but I cut school a lot. But we moved soon thereafter to Fairfax, and I was a freshman at Sir Francis Drake.
Wow. It's basically what I did. When we moved to Roseville, I started in high school, so it was an easy transition for me. It must have been an easier transition starting high school.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, it was brutal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know anyone.
Okay, so real quick, I just want to go back to...
Two of my first friends was Eric Storrs, who I think you knew somewhat, but not much. Wild man. And Kevin Garrity was the first person I met as a freshman in high school. Tall boy, that's what we used to call him.
So you didn't live up the house in Fairfax. You didn't build that yet.
No.
So where were you living?
We lived in Marinda Oaks, right above St. Rita's. When we moved from San Francisco, when I first went to San Francisco with Tom and Jane, we had an apartment in the marina.
The three of you?
Yeah.
Where was the rest of the family?
They're in Michigan still.
Why did you guys go first?
I'm not sure.
That seems a little strange that they wouldn't go with you.
Tom and Jane went first, and I flew in a week or so later.
Oh, so they drove...
Tom picked me up at San Francisco International Airport, and I still remember in the green Volkswagen Bug, I still remember him driving me north and into San Francisco, and we lived in an apartment in the marina right on Lombard.
Oh, wow.
Lombard and Webster. And there was this crazy guy lived in the building right across the street from us.
Uh-huh.
We were on the top floor, which was the second or third floor or something. And there was like a 5-story building across, and there was this crazy guy lived right across from us directly. We'd look out our window at his window. And I'll still remember him climbing in the window with one leg out, and he like threw a guitar out in the street, an electric guitar, and he was kicking the side and pounding on the window. Some of those things,
wow,
you never forget stuff like
yeah.
that.
Welcome to San Francisco.
Oh yeah, he was definitely dangerous. And he used to walk out in Lombard Street, and we'd look out the window watching, screaming at people, you know.
Do you think Jane or Tom will remember that guy?
Yes.
Wow. So going to San Francisco, what year was that? Sorry, 67?
71.
71.
71.
So there was a lot of stuff going on.
71 or 72. I think it was 71 and 72. By 72, we were in Marin. And that's probably correct. So I skipped a lot of school in San Francisco. Went to some tough schools. By myself, no parents around.
How did you get to school? Do you remember? Bus?
I think I walked. So after we lived in the apartment on Webster, the folks moved out, and we got a nice townhouse type thing up on Twin Peaks. And I'll never forget how freaking cold it is up there.
You just came from Michigan.
Yeah, but it's a different chill.
Yeah.
You've heard the line from Mark Twain.
Yeah.
The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
It's true. Yeah, it's insane.
That fog would roll in, and it was freezing cold. I still remember John Arnold coming out to visit and hanging with me, keeping me company up there on Twin Peaks.
So 71, 72, I mean, that was the place to be in San Francisco, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
the protests or just the hippie movement, Grateful Dead. I mean, the shows that were going on there.
Yeah,
Golden Gate Park
and Haight-Ashbury, and I saw so many great shows.
Do you remember?
So many great shows. but a lot of them at Winterland.
Now, are we talking about just San Francisco in general, or the time that you were living in San Francisco?
I don't get that question.
Well, how long were you living in San Francisco?
I would suggest we lived there overall between the marina and Twin Peaks, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe,
So yeah, while you were living in San Francisco,
maybe
were
a year and
you
a half.
going and seeing shows while you were there?
Oh yeah, before the folks had moved out. I'm pretty certain Tom and I. A lot of shows, but one I definitely remember is we went to Winterland to see the Rolling Stones and Stevie Wonder, and we had like no money, and we waited till after the show started. They were scalping tickets even back then, and I think I had money and Tom didn't. So I might have scalped the ticket for like $10. I don't know what it was, but it was a hot show for sure. The Stones were completely in their heyday, as was Stevie Wonder. It was a big time show. So somehow I was going in, and Tom was trading his watch. He gave a guy his watch for the ticket to get in the show.
Whoa.
Oh.
Wait, so you got to see the Rolling Stones? I thought you never got to see them.
Oh no, I saw them a few times, but that was the best by far.
I'm sorry, where was that at? Wonderland?
Winterland, and that was when. Geez, I'll think of it in a second. Big Stones album, double album. I'm just old man now.
Ooh. Well, my next portion of questions, if you need to take a break or anything like that, but building the house.
Pause it.
We can pause it anytime you want. We can come back to it. Yeah, you can. This is
No,
it's just
go ahead.
me gonna be listening
If
to
I
this.
go like this, pause it.
You can just say pause.
Okay.
Well, building the house in Fairfax. I mean, holy. So, first of all, you've already lived a crazy life just moving to San Francisco, moving to San Francisco, your whole experience in Detroit or Michigan, moving to San Francisco, living there for 2 years, and then moving to Marin, which was just a totally different shift from Michigan to San Francisco. Now you're moving to quiet Marin back in the 70s, which probably wasn't too quiet. There was probably a lot of stuff going on. But then,
That was very happening, but
were you excited to move to Marin, or were you getting used to living in San Francisco?
no, I was excited. There's no reason to battle. You know, never was really fond of living in a big city and battling, you know, for stores, restaurants, street, you know, foot traffic.
Just insanity.
Yeah, I was okay with it, but, you know, in hindsight, that's just not my style.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Do you excuse?
So to be,
did you ever go to Marin before moving up there, or did you just kind
yeah. I'm trying to remember. I know that Tom and I drove to Stinson Beach or something like that, and I was just marveling at the Golden Gate Bridge, going through Mill Valley and up over the windy roads down to Stinson Beach. It was very impressive for a young boy like me.
Oh,
But I
coming
was
from Michigan,
actually-
yeah, that
I was
was.
very manly, and I don't know if that's the right terminology, but I was world traveled. Without traveling the world, I experienced a lot. For a 12 or 13-year-old, I had seen a lot. A lot. Being the younger brother, and Jim went from a total geek, a complete nerd, smart as hell. He used to read the newspaper when I was 6, 7 years old. He'd be sitting out there reading the newspaper. He'd read and read and read. He was very bright, top of his class, and a real nerd. he ended up rebelling and turned into a hippie and started smoking pot and the like when I was 6, 7 years old or something. He was ahead of his time in different ways than I was. But so he ended up moving into a commune. And I think he was 17 years old. And it was a hippie commune.
In Michigan?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving. Did you pause that?
We're recording.
Uh,
Hi.
That's all right. I need a break anyway.
How long have you guys been doing it?
Well,
I'd say 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
and we're back. Took a little break. Where did we leave off? Where were we? So you're moving to Fairfax.
Rolling Stones concert.
No, after that, you were a manly kid. You had been through a lot.
I had seen a lot.
Jim. We were talking about Jim reading the newspaper. So you had seen him go to a commune.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember you guys being scared for him, or were Grandma and Grandpa not happy of him doing this?
I think somewhat we were all excited about him progressing into another phase of his life.
You
God had
trusted him and
peaked him.
had confidence in
Oh,
him?
for sure. He was very smart. So he rebelled somewhat and grew long hair and went to the commune and got new friends, and those new friends became new friends for all of us. My parents were opened their arms to everyone, like almost no one. They opened their arms to everyone, all of our friends and everything. Of course, we were just so close in Michigan.
In Michigan and in California.
Well, yeah. So definitely part of my parents' history is, and it seemed to, well, you know, it actually started before Jimmy moved to a commune. They had Bill Dygert. He moved into our house, and he was from the inner city of Detroit and was having difficulty with drugs and living in the inner city. And his dad and my dad were like best friends. And so, I would say it was probably 67 or 68, Bill Dygert moved into our house. And obviously we're like brothers still. So that was somewhat the beginning of it. But my parents opened their doors to everyone. So after Jim moved into the commune, and then he went through some changes, the commune itself had a record store called the Record House. And so through the years, we became very close with Jim's roommates and their friends. And we were very close in a short amount of time. After, after Jim, I think Jim moved back to the house after a few years, and then his buddies moved in. Not all of them, and I can't remember specifically which one was first, but a few of them would come and stay at our house during hard times or whatever it was.
Were they strange people or interesting?
No, they were fantastic. They were wild and crazy hipsters.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is part of the reason I'd seen so much by the time I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And there was a surprising amount of people who lived in our house over the years. And then when we moved to San Francisco, many of them followed. And when we built the home on Bosque, many of them contributed greatly.
Wow.
To the construction of the home.
Cool. So
many of them.
pay
for extended periods of time.
So your parents, grandparent, or my grandparents, helped them in Michigan,
Big time.
and then they moved to San Francisco to help them build the house.
Yeah, but they helped them. They didn't necessarily move to San Francisco or Marin County to help us build the house, but we were doing it, and so they naturally did it. But they took in a lot of people, a lot and a lot. Even some of my friends. And so that's something I haven't thought a lot about lately, but my parents deserve, I don't know the right word. I mean, respect, admiration. They were very inspirational. And I didn't necessarily see it so much at the time, but I did, to an extent I did, but they were very inspirational. That's probably the best word.
For you, your siblings, and your friends as well, I would imagine.
All of our friends, yeah. And
their
like,
grandkids. I mean, your kids, obviously, every single one had a special memory with Grandma and Grandpa that inspired them.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were very unique, wonderful people. Wonderful people.
So I'd like to, while we're on that subject, memory of Grandma and memory of Grandpa, that just individually, if you don't mind.
Well, I've already talked quite a bit about them, so it's not like I'm prepared to
but
make a speech about them, but just some of the brief things that I've already told you quite a bit of the history of what they've done. But my mom, I think, my initial remembrance about her is just both of them extremely hard workers. Understood they had responsibilities in life and took care of their responsibilities. A lot of people just don't really do that,
Mm-hmm.
But they understood that simple fact. But so my mom, one of the memories and things I brag about her is her ability to be caring with virtually everyone. And she would take the time to visit when we'd have parties. We had a lot of parties, large parties. My mom would work the room. That's really what I remember about it. I'd sit back and watch her sometimes. And 30 minutes with someone who she never met before to make them feel comfortable. And then she'd be over here, and somehow she'd manage to spend quality time with 35 people in one party,
That's incredible.
My dad, he had an artistic mind, creative, ingenuitive, and the house on the hill was a great example of my dad, So no, I'm not going to cry like Mom did, but the stained glass windows, the bookcases, the paintings. Look at that one right there. It's a Dick Tracy comic strip. He was just unique as hell. And then look over there. See those I don't even know what you call them.
Triangle.
Yeah, and he was an architect, and he was just very creative, and he never conformed to anything. So those are just my initial thoughts when asked about him.
That's really cool.
I still remember my dad teaching me how to tie my shoes.
How was that? Did he teach you the over the log and rabbit
And I still
ears?
remember my dad teaching me that you don't need to cry. You can cry all you want, but nothing's going to get better. He's like, when I was a little kid, it's probably around the time he was teaching me how to tie my shoes.
What did he mean by that? So just fix whatever is the
Toughen
situation.
up.
Yeah.
Toughen up. No wham, wham, wham. Don't be a baby. And it worked.
And was Grandpa a tough character? Was
Oh,
he
yeah.
pretty soft and
I think
funny? I remember him as just a goofy, funny guy.
he was never really harsh on me. My mom was. But like I was on you guys. She was like that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mom let you guys get away with murder your whole lives
Mm-hmm.
and showered you with love.
Mm-hmm.
But I put down the hammer, I used to know that if I'm going to try and teach you one certain thing, it's going to take a level of 4 teachings. You weren't going to listen. You're only going to listen to 25% of what I say, so I'd have to do it 4 times or whatever it was. I would overhammer on you guys the points I was trying to get through.
Cool. Yeah, I recognize that.
But my dad wasn't that way, my mom was. So it's funny. Role changes,
Yeah.
And I inherited some of their traits. It's kind of fun making me relive the past.
Yeah, it is. For me, too.
But no, I remember him sitting me down. We had a back landing. Our house was split level in Michigan. So there were stairs going here and then going up to the left and then up to the upstairs, and the living room was split level in between. And so the back landing going out to the pool, there was a couple stairs going up, and he sat me down on the back landing and taught me how to tie my shoes.
Do you remember what he said? What was the
Not really.
motto or the...
Not really, but, he was the kind of guy that if he took time to talk to you about something or teach you something, it set in. So I think he taught me one time, and then I knew how to tie my shoes.
That's really cool. Well, that brings me to the next point. Building that house in Fairfax. I mean, we
may want to take a break.
Yeah, we could take a break, but
and start up next,
keep thinking about that, because that is just incredible what you guys were able to do.
It was
on a hillside, not on a flat ground. I mean...
Well, let's hold on it. And I will tell you, that can start a whole new period of my life. And I don't even want to talk about it, think about it. I want to save it for when we talk. It's good when I'm doing it randomly.
Yeah, I think so. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your childhood moving up to Fairfax, or moving to the Bay Area? What about Jane? Anything that you remember about Jane?
In the move?
Or just in Michigan? I mean, who took you
recording?
to... Yeah. Who took you to... Wasn't there... Who did you go see in Michigan when you were 12 years old, 11 years old?
Concerts and stuff?
Yeah. Did Jane take you to a lot of those shows?
The first... Okay, so I saw both Ted Nugent and Bob Seger. Those were some of my first shows. But they were small time.
Wait, which they're both Detroit natives.
That's correct. They were local bands just starting out. And I saw both of them, I think, at an ice rink. And Ted Nugent was in the Amboy Dukes. And it's still an all-time classic album. And Bob Seger was an up-and-coming star. Even back then, he had this fantastic voice. And I'm trying to remember the song that kind of put him in the national spotlight a little bit. No matter. Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes did Journey to the Center of Your Mind. And I think they were calling him Motor City Madman even back then. And Bob Seger did, I'm drawing a blank on the first hit he had. But so anyway, those are my first shows. Then, while I was still in Detroit, the first big concert I saw, and most of the concerts that I saw so many concerts at Wonderland in San Francisco, but back then most of the big shows I saw were at Cobo Hall. And I think I was really impressed, this is how young I was, at Cobo Hall, because they had a circular driveway to their parking lot, like a donut thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never seen anything like that. I never even thought of that till this minute.
Interesting.
But it's true. Cobo, somehow the O or something.
Yeah.
So the first big concert I saw, big production, was Moody Blues. And I think I went and saw that with John Arnold. John and I went through a lot. So then I saw almost a staggering amount of concerts in the next year or two before we moved to California. And for instance, I saw Humble Pie with Peter Frampton and Steve Marriott and I Don't Need No Doctor was their hit. And they had a lot of them. And they put out an album, coincidentally, a lot of people did. They put out a double album set, live set. That was big back then. And Humble Pie was live at the Fillmore East. Allman Brothers put out live at Fillmore East. Okay, so anyway, I saw Humble Pie, and they were super cool, long-haired guys. They all had jean shirts on, and Frampton was the star. Steve Marriott was the singer. And so then I saw, I can't really recall all of them, but I saw some big shows. I saw Pink Floyd with John McLaughlin and the Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Wow. That was in Michigan?
Yes.
Do you remember what tour it was?
Yes, it was Metal. The Metal tour.
And that's before...
Dark Side of the Moon.
And all those hits.
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon, Shine on Your Crazy Diamond, or
when I saw
Wish You Were Here.
The first one, the Metal tour, I think I saw two guys kiss.
For the first time?
Yeah. And I staggered away. But, so that was the album where it's like, they do that, I can't remember it now, but, one of these days I'm going to dance with the gypsies. Remember that?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, you do. You know that one. It was like the roots of Pink Floyd at the time. And they had actually had a couple albums before that. They went through some changes. They were an early band.
Wow, yeah.
So I saw that. I saw some other shows, which I may think of in the next minute or so. But probably the all-time, maybe, could be, definitely one of the best concerts I'd ever seen. And they all were. The Metal Pink Floyd thing blew me away.
Mm-hmm. How old were you for that?
Oh, shit, I must have been 11.
That's crazy.
And
that's younger than Scarlet.
That's right. And I had experimented in a lot of things at that point already.
Wow.
I sniffed glue. And I was taking LSD and the like. So maybe I shouldn't put the controversial parts in there, but what the hell?
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, different time era back then. I have a real question before we move on, or if you have anything you were going to say.
Well, yeah, I just want to tell you about one more concert, and then I'll think about other concerts that
Yeah.
I saw back then. It was pretty staggering. So, I went to a concert. I don't know that there was any name to it, like they named Days on the Greens
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, living in California, but it was a day on the green at Michigan State Fairgrounds. And the headliner was Johnny Winter. And next person who played, or, before that was Edgar Winter with Rick Derringer.
Wait, same show?
Yeah. All these bands were in the same show. And I'm not sure the sequence that they played, but I know Johnny Winter was the headliner and Edgar played right before him.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the day I saw the Allman Brothers Band
Wow.
with Dwayne Allman. And I just recently figured this out. I'll get to it in a second. But I also saw that day, let's see, there was Johnny Winter, Edgar Winter, the Allman Brothers Band, Boz Scaggs.
Wow.
He had just broken away from
Steve Miller?
Steve Miller, and Jay Giles Band.
Holy moly.
They were really spectacular. They were a great band. First album, first two or whatever. And also Boz Scaggs. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, Boz Scaggs. And then Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels also played that day. And there was another band who opened the show, a keyboard player who was really good. So I just figured out recently, I think Boz Scaggs played before the Allman Brothers. I think it was like that keyboard player played, then Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, then Boz Scaggs, and then Jay Giles, and then the Allman Brothers, and then Edgar, and then Johnny.
Wow, what a
So
day.
I think it was a long day. In fact, I'll end it in a minute. But I think that when I saw Boz Scaggs that day, Dwayne Allman came out before them and did Loan Me a Dime with Boz Scaggs.
No way.
Yes,
That's awesome.
I'm getting the chills.
Wow.
So, just to end it about this fantastic show we saw. All-day show. All of us were there. We were spread out all over.
What do you mean, all of us? Saw
the
friends?
whole neighborhood.
Oh.
Shimoleski,
Oh my
Deshanes,
gosh.
everybody. My cousins.
Parents?
No.
What an exciting time.
So, Tom Deshane, which I have to talk to him about this. Tom Deshane and I hopped the fence, the cyclone fence, and went backstage while Edgar Winter was playing. And we were sitting right behind the stage, and we sat down and we drank cocktails with Johnny Winter. Sitting in this like old pickup, this really classic pickup. We were sitting on the bed of the pickup watching Edgar Winter play.
Holy moly.
With Johnny Winter. Albinos, both of them. Blue eyes. Or
Brothers?
No, pink eyes. Yeah, they're brothers.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm not kidding you. What a day that was.
Holy moly. Drinking cocktails with...
Martinis, I think. And I was 12 years old. In the back of a pickup. With Johnny.
Wow. And you snuck back there.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
I gotta ask Tom Deshane about that.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So anyway.
So obviously you've had a huge musical influence on all of our lives. So when you were a child, before we move on to the next stage, how were you getting your music? Because nowadays we have our phone, and
Remember
we
I told
got a
you-
lot of our music from you. And
Remember I told you that I used to like coming home from school and watching the Three Stooges and Spanky and our gang? There was a phase at the same time, where I'd come home from school, and I was in like kindergarten, first grade or something, and I'd go down in the basement of our house with a little transistor radio, and I'd dial up the hits. And so this is like when I Want to Hold Your Hand came out, and then I think even Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky, and songs like that. So I used to love just going home and listening to an AM radio station. And I was young, and then as my brother Jim went into the commune, you know, he started to bring me into more bands like Cream, Jimi Hendrix, and the like. So I was into music at a very young age. I absorbed it.
Do you remember a local station in Detroit that you guys would listen to that?
I was just, I'll think of it, yeah, they all start K out here, they start W back in the East.
Huh.
So WXYZ, that's just the alphabet, right?
Yeah.
I can think of it. I mean, I remembered 18345 Fremont.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Well, that's really
And our
cool.
phone number, let's see, was GR61442.
What? The phone number was G?
GR61442. All the phone numbers started with letters there because they group you. So everybody in our neighborhood, their phone number started with GR.
Whoa.
Which is what? It's like
4, 7? Or...
something like that, yeah. 4761442. Yeah, that might have been my phone number.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember your first record you bought?
I think it was Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits that I bought. I went to this little record store down the street and bought Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits.
Do you remember what the record store was called? Was that a place, a
Mm-mm.
meetup spot or anything?
Yeah, somewhat, a little bit. I was a punk kid. Speaking ahead of his time, Jimi Hendrix was so ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing anything nearly as radical as him in those days.
Do you remember liking it at first, or
Oh, I loved it.
just...
I loved it. Foxy Lady.
coming on the radio?
On my home turntable.
Oh, yeah.
I bought the record.
Wow. Well, cool.
So to be quite honest, my brother Jim was a complete and total geek. I mean, he really was, you know. But he had a very strong influence in my musical experiences in life at the beginning. He brought home Traffic, John Barleycorn Must Die, and a lot of other albums. Maybe even the Moody Blues. It was my first big concert. So he really moved into his own there for a while.
And do you remember how any of them didn't get drafted in Vietnam? Wasn't Jimmy, was he not of age?
He was of age for a while, and I don't remember the exact story. I think he was a conscientious objector. Meaning you don't believe in violence.
Mm-hmm.
And later he became a communist. And I didn't really understand exactly what that meant at the time. Other than I guess he believed more in Lenin or somebody
Mm-hmm.
than he believed in American politics. I'm not sure why he did that or what. He was also in the honor roll at University of Detroit, which is pretty prestigious school.
Mm-hmm.
He was smart,
Yeah, still is. Yeah.
but he didn't have any common sense though.
Not like his 11-year-old brother.
That's right. That's my strength. It's not his.
Were Grandma and
He's not a
Grandpa
very good driver either.
were Grandma and Grandpa into politics as strongly as he was, or is he?
Well, I remember. I think everybody loved, not everybody, obviously, but I felt like everyone loved John Kennedy, JFK, and I remember walking home. I think I was in kindergarten, and I was walking home down Hillcrest from Coolidge Elementary School. I was walking home, even then, and I remember one of the neighbor ladies, you know, it was like at noon or something. Kindergarten gets out early, right? Coming out on her porch and yelling across the street, "Did you hear about John Kennedy?" And he had gotten shot. And they were like crying and bawling on their front porches. And I was walking right past them. And that's how I first heard about JFK getting assassinated.
Wow.
But I think they liked John and Bobby Kennedy a lot.
Who, your parents?
Yeah. They weren't real political, but when Richard Nixon got elected as president, I remember my dad saying, "I think we might move to Canada."
Really?
Yeah.
Now, the other night we were talking about Bobby Kennedy and your story with that. So, well, I guess that was the story of JFK. But do you remember the landing on the moon?
Oh, yeah.
Where you were?
Yeah, I think it was in our living room watching on TV. They showed it live. As far as I remember, they showed it live. It wasn't like later in the day. I actually saw, once they set the camera up on the moon, saw Neil Armstrong take the steps down the ladder, step on the moon, and say, "This is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." And then old Buzz Aldrin came next, and he never got any credit, you know.
When you were a kid in Michigan, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up? Well,
Teacher.
You wanted to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
That's true.
Why?
I drew a picture of myself as an adult, as a teacher. Maybe a little tie on, I don't remember. I don't know why. I think I admired my teachers.
Yeah.
I gave them credit. I liked being taught. That's probably why.
That's really cool. What was your favorite subject in school? Do you remember?
I think I like social studies and definitely geography.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And art class. Didn't like math, but I was pretty good at it. And spelling didn't matter so much, but I was good at that too for my age. Math, it's kind of weird. I always, I learned in school how to do it, but I applied different logic to math to where I'd come up with the equation in a different format. And then I knew how it's supposed to be done, how I was taught to do it, and I would double check my way of doing it. It was faster for me somehow to just do it in other form. And then I'd use the standard equation and double check myself.
Huh. You think you got that from Grandpa?
Maybe. Mm-hmm.
Did you drive your first car in Michigan?
No.
You never snuck out?
No, but it's funny. I think the first time I drove, we were living in Marinda Oaks.
Above in Fairfax?
Yeah. And my dad said, "We're going to go to the store. Here," handed me the keys and said, "Pull the car out in the street so we can get ready to go. And I pulled the car out and went right through the neighbor's fence. I'm like, holy shit, Dad, I don't know why you gave me the keys to the car. I don't know how to drive. And he and I had to go over and fix the fence later, you know.
That's pretty funny.
I backed into the fence.
That was your first experience behind the wheel, huh?
Mhm.
And you said Jimmy wasn't a good driver, huh? Ooh.
No, he wasn't.
Well, before we move on from Michigan, holidays over there, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I mean, you had a lot of family members that lived in that area, right?
Oh, yeah. And just speaking of winter holidays, not even a holiday, but I still remember we had a bay window in our living room, which is a window that pops out like 2 feet or something.
Yeah.
And I used to sit in that bay window and watch the thunderstorms
Cool.
and the lightning hammering down. It was super impressive. And I've seen it a few times in California. When I lived in Siskiyou, we had some intense lightning storms, but the lightning storms in Michigan were something else.
Yeah. What's the story of? Didn't someone burn down the house you guys were living in, or?
Well, yeah, the house caught on fire. I think we should cut back pretty soon.
Yeah, we would go visit Grandma.
But briefly, you still on?
Oh yeah.
Speaking about the holidays, I'm sure that more memories will come to me, but some of the first ones is Grandpa gave me a BB gun for Christmas.
A Red Ryder.
It could have been. Yep. And my mom was shocked.
She didn't know.
And like 3 days later, it was gone. She got rid of it.
Oh boy.
And then they gave me a set of drums
What?
in a different year. And 3 days later, that was gone too. So those are some of my first.
I don't know if
Christmas
I've ever
memories.
heard that or if Mark's ever heard that. That's interesting. So you could have
They were
been
Ludwig.
Ludwig.
Yeah.
So you could have been the big time drummer.
That's right. And then later on, my mom gave me a bass guitar. Christmas. That was quite a bit later.
And 3 days later, that was gone.
And I picked that up one time, and the case wasn't closed, and the bass went tumbling onto the sidewalk and put a crack in it.
Oh.
Anyway,
So before we end up this first section,
I also played the cello for a while.
didn't stick with any of it, huh?
Nah, I should have.
Where's your barbecue lighter?
Should be in the white basket.
So I want to do this thing. So one thing that I always remember as a child, and we still do, is name that song, right? Name that song as fast as you can. And it's funny, Mark and I will just hear one little beginning noise and know exactly what that song is, and it's really weird how your memory can pick up on these things. So I want to do this thing. It's
Don't you think I do that too?
well, we got it from you. So I'm going to challenge you, and I have probably 20 songs here, and we're going to see if you can get. We're going to do 5 on this song, 5 on this section. Let's see if you can get it.
Maybe I got to use the restroom.
It'll be
Say
quick.
hi to Grandma. Okay.
It'll be quick.
All right.
Let's see if you can get just from the first initial noises.
Oh, jeez.
This one's tough.
That was a little bit too short, but
I
Lime
don't-
in the coconut.
No.
Okay.
Close. Oh, that was too. That's,
It's a little bit obscure. I know the song.
it is obscure.
So play it and I'll holler out when I figure it out.
As I reach for a peach, slide around down behind the sofa in Saint-Tropez.
That's tough for me.
That one's tough. I didn't know if you'd get that one or not. Pink
Oh
Floyd.
wow. That was
I was-
even before.
That was before metal.
I think so.
Saint-Tropez.
Tropez.
Tropez.
Saint Tropez. And then there's another one.
Breaking a state.
So I was listening to this album and
See,
I'm
I
like,
didn't hear this song very much at all.
yeah, I didn't know if
Couple
you'd get this
times.
one, but I was wondering if you can get this one.
No, that one I'm not ashamed. I just didn't know. You know, I didn't listen to it.
Interesting. So you're 0 for 1.
That's surprising.
Okay, let's see. You're gonna get this one right away.
Maybe. Right down the line. John Rafferty. No,
You're so close.
no, I can't remember.
Jerry with a G.
Okay.
All right, so you're 1 for 2. Ooh, I don't know if you're gonna get this one.
Jesse Colin Young.
Oh, baby! Can you name the song?
That was pretty good.
That was good.
Live on a Rooftop.
Rich Top. Yeah. Nice. All right. So you're 2 for 3. Pretty good so far. This one.
I never would have got the first one, by the way.
Okay, here we go. This one's gonna be quick.
Yep. Just do that much again. I know the song. Play twice that. Joe Walsh?
No.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Was it Joe Walsh or was it the James Gang?
It's James Gang.
See, I got it.
Ooh.
Couple strokes.
Song.
I know it too.
You want it again?
Yeah.
A little bit longer.
Sure. Normally I'd get it by now. Okay. I know. I'm drawing a blank.
We'll come back to it.
Or just play it till I get it. Oh, wait. Seems to me you don't talk much about it. Seems to me you just turn your pretty head and walk away.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you're 3
Three out
for
of 4.
4. All right, next one. This one's gonna be quick.
Now do it again.
Okay.
No.
You want that little again, or do you
A
want?
little more. Jethro Tull.
Okay.
Aqualung. No. The train. Oh, that's another band I saw in Detroit, by the way.
You saw Jethro Tull?
Yeah, Ian Anderson, right after
Dude.
Aqualung came out.
Wow. Well, it's off this album.
Dun. Locomotive Breath.
Nope.
Oh. Dun, 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 dun. Ba, 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 ba. I know the song, I just can't think of the
He's
name.
dancing, by the way.
Well, he used to stand like a stork, and he'd pull one leg up, and he'd play on one leg.
You want the name?
Yeah.
Cross-eyed Mary.
Oh, that's so good.
All right. Want to take a break?
Yeah.
One more song?
All right, one more, last one.
All right, I got to really step it up this one.
Dr. John.
Yep. That one's easy. Song?
Oh, the song is I just got off track. Yeah, too old. Right place at the wrong time.
Ooh, yeah. All right, we'll end it on that. That is part 1. Hour and 26 minutes, Dad. We haven't even gotten to California yet, basically.
I've been in the right place.
Oh yeah.
I've been in the wrong time. I was in the right thing.
All right, thanks.